All right, Dominic.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to our webinar on all you ever wanted to know about attending PorcFest. So my name is Dominic DeMaria. I'm an agent with Porcupine Real Estate for all of your free state real estate needs. Give us a call. Joining me today are several folks who are very familiar with PorcFest, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Start with Constance.
Hi, I'm associate broker at Porcupine Real Estate, and I've been going to PorcFest since 2013. I actually have my original hoodie on, which is quite faded at this point. And I attended my first one and decided to move to New Hampshire soon after. And I've been in New Hampshire since 2014 and been running registration at PorcFest for the last couple of years.
Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen. I live on the seacoast here in New Hampshire. I've been to a couple of PorcFests and volunteered with them, but I also work with the Shell Community Center here over on the seacoast and do some organizing when events and stuff like that as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. We moved to New Hampshire last year. I've gone to PorcFest 4 times now. And last year I helped with the kids' activities.
Great. And then Sean.
Hello, I'm Sean. I've been the vendor coordinator for PorcFest for the last 3 years now. As much as there's a vendor coordinator, we try to decentralize as much as we can, but I still stick around to help people. I do it professionally, so I try to help as much as I can and make things go as smooth as possible with it. I've been attending PorcFest for 6 years, and we moved here 6 years ago. So this is going to be our sixth. This will be our sixth one coming up. So here to answer questions and help anybody out that has anything with vending or attendance or families there as well. We bring our 2 kids, me and my wife. So
great.
A little about us.
Thank you very much. And then we also have Amy here, who is our coordinator, transaction coordinator for Porcupine Real Estate. If you want to just say hello, Amy.
Hey, everyone.
So we'll jump right into it. So just a little bit about me. I have never been to PorcFest. I've been in New Hampshire for about 2 years now. We rented for a little while and then bought a house in the Seacoast region, my wife and I. And this is the first year we're actually available to go to a PorcFest. So when my coworkers had heard that I had never been before, they had asked me if I wanted to moderate a little webinar here, asking all the questions that I actually have about PorcFest. So here we go. So let's see, what is PorcFest? Anybody who wants to jump in, just jump right in.
Well, I'll hop in then. So PorcFest is the Porcupine Freedom Festival. It's up in beautiful Lancaster, New Hampshire. It's on the side of a mountain, and it's the 3rd weekend in June. And like the main goal originally behind PorcFest was to showcase New Hampshire and convince people that this is where freedom is and where you should come live and join us in this freedom, and kind of showcase all of the people in New Hampshire that are trying to live free. And now it's kind of a mixture, I would say. It's a lot of new people coming from elsewhere to check us out, but it's also the Free State Project has gotten so big now that it's one of the real events where you see everybody from all over the state now that maybe you won't see as often. Yeah, I guess I could speak to the other stuff too, but attendance is a couple thousand people. It's been growing every year over year now. We're basically bursting at the seams there, but attendance is a good mixture of activists within the state and people from out of state looking in on us. And it really does attract a huge variety of crowds, I would say. You guys can probably agree with this, but like, you have everything from the anarchist hippies all the way to suit and tie, Ron Paul Republican types. And if you're the sort of person that wants to go hang out in like a music festival for a week and and party in the woods. You can have a good time there as long as you value freedom. And if you're the sort of person that wants to watch documentaries and hear people give lectures and that sort of thing, you'll also have a very full schedule and have a great time there as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that PorcFest can be like a little bit of anything for anybody. It's what you make of it.
Mhm.
Like literally, as we talk about the field and campgrounds, it's what you make of it, because it's so attendee driven at this point.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the dates, and now is that it goes the entire week?
Well, it's actually a little more complicated than that. So some people just come for the weekend because that's like just the most concentrated time, but it is a week-long festival. And actually some people come the week before and some people stay the week after. And as PorcFest has grown over the years, I think the people coming earlier and staying later are growing and growing in numbers. It's a little bit of a different vibe, I would say, earlier and after the fact, right? Because you have people that are there for a lot longer, so they're in a little bit of a less hurry. So it's a different vibe. I'm sure Sean can speak to that too. I know he stays for the whole week and kind of gets a good cross section there.
But I would say,
Yeah.
like, as far as saying it's a whole week, the official scheduling doesn't usually start until either Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, and then it wraps up by Sunday morning. So
Mhm.
not quite a week.
Yeah, but even if you go earlier, there's just stuff going on. Right?
Yeah, and I'll let
Yeah.
Sean say what he was gonna say. I just wanted to clarify that point.
Yeah, we generally show up 4 to 5 days early and stay 4 to 5 days after. And especially in the last couple of years, it's picked up where by Friday night into Saturday morning before it, there's a couple hundred people on site in its building each day up till, we definitely had near 1,000 people by Tuesday before like any of the structured event had officially started, and even staying afterwards. We had people. It definitely slowed down a little faster afterwards, but I mean, still by Tuesday, Wednesday, there was still a good, I think we counted like one day, like 86 people still there on Wednesday after the show had ended. So it was, there's a lot of people that are freestaters now living up there as well. So it's its own community up there. The decentralization of what the freestater community and the feel of it can be is really awesome. And it does last more than just a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've stayed longer for the last 3 years, but last year was the first year we came early as well. And it made a really nice difference to be settled in by the time all the activities started and to kind of have that wind down time after. And there was still activities happening all of the days we were there, just organically, people getting together. It was a lot of fun.
Actually, that's a great segue into the next point, which is you mentioned activities. So what kind of things should we be expecting going to PorcFest?
There's more to do than you can fit into the schedule of your week. I always feel like I read the schedule and there's so much that I want to do, and then I never get to everything. So I definitely have to like pick my favorite things to get to. So that's a fun part of PorcFest. The kids have a blast. I feel like it's just every day of PorcFest, every minute, if you want to be doing something, there's something that you'll enjoy doing.
Yeah, I think I take a different approach to PorcFest. I didn't look at the schedule. I just like assume there's always something going on. So I'm just gonna like wake up in the morning and start looking for adventure. And then when I get too tired at night, I'll pass out and then do it again the next day. And you just stay busy the whole time. Like there's just so much, like you can't really choose. There's too much to go do.
Or sometimes I look at the schedule and I think I'm going to something, and then on the way to what I think I'm going to, you bump into other people doing this other really cool thing, and then I never get to where I thought I was going, but you just, the whole time, it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why we always ask the speakers to get to their events at least 15 minutes early, because it might be a 5-minute walk from your campsite to like where you're talking, but you're going to run into people on the way. So you have to give yourself longer to be on time.
So if I was planning on being there only for a couple of days, if I couldn't block out myself for 10 days to be up there before and after, would you recommend going a specific set of days? Is there any ones that, if it's a first year going, ones that you don't want to miss?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Saturday is definitely the big one, right? That's when there's a bonfire every night, but that's when they really go all out and everybody kind of gathers on the field and
The
they take
party.
the photo and yeah,
Burn the porcupine.
burn the porcupine.
Oh,
Which, yeah, we could tell you what that means, or you could just show up and find out.
I think I want to leave it to my imagination. So let's see here. So me personally, I am not a huge crowd person. So are there things that I can do where I'm not going to be like shoulder to shoulder with people? Are there areas where there's smaller groups of people gathering?
My husband is not a large crowd person. And there's always small group things happening. There's campfires at night happening on campsites where it's a handful of people getting together, talking about whatever topic interests them. And you can definitely, anybody can find some site that has something that fits their vibe.
And that tends to be how it is. Like you can just wander around and people are welcoming for, if they have a campfire going, you can just kind of saddle up and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, you have something in common with all these people, and
Right.
so and you can trust them somewhat. So it's like a bunch of friends you haven't met yet, right? It's really great vibes all around.
So as far as we talked about the attractions, like there's different events and things like that going on. They're like speakers. I've seen a little bit of the schedule. I tried not to spoil myself too much by like exploring the website or anything like that. So what can you tell me about like speakers and other things that are going on?
Well, I guess like the speaker wise, the PorcFest operates on like a hub system, so it's very decentralized. So every site that wants to can advertise itself as a hub and have its own speakers, have its own events, have its own activities, which means that the speakers are going to be a broad range as well. There's definitely big names that will be booked in like the pavilion areas and the more established spots like that. But then there's also just panels and discussions and debates and classes and meetups and meetings and activities like that are just scattered all over the entire campground. Really, they're not even that, like there's the vendors are kind of centralized in one area, but all the actual activities are pretty well across the whole campground, I would say.
And I really think every topic is covered in some hub or another. I don't think you could name a topic and not have it come up at PorcFest, either listed on the schedule or just organically because you bump into people who have similar interests.
Yeah.
Very good. So as far as like a calendar of events, when does that come out?
Well, I think it slowly gets built over time leading up to it. Like, I'm helping out with 2 different booths there, and we haven't even begun planning yet. So we'll figure our schedule out when it gets closer to the day. But yeah, so I wouldn't even like look too much, honestly, at the schedule. I would plan on what days you're gonna go up, but then like I don't know, maybe wait till the last minute to look at the schedule because it's going to keep adding and adding and adding and adding. Maybe look to see if you want to help out with something. Like if you see that there's a speaker that you like or activity that you like, you don't need to wait till PorcFest to contact those people and say, hey, I like what you're doing. Can I join with you guys? You need a hand? Can I volunteer? They're definitely always looking for volunteers. There's just so much to do. So I
Or
wouldn't wait.
using my site as an example from last year, my hub was a peaceful parenting and children's activities hub. And we had different talks that came in. But the hub was listed on the schedule pretty early on, but the actual schedule of who was giving what talk on what topics specifically wasn't really ironed out until a lot closer to PorcFest. But the fact that there was a hub that would be discussing these topics was already there. So you can start finding the hubs that will interest you now, and then like Stephen was saying, be a part of making sure that if there is a topic that you really want to discuss, that gets into that hub's schedule.
Mhm.
And the pavilion schedule will come together a few weeks before PorcFest, but there's a lot of moving parts with speakers who can only attend certain days. So the schedule won't be finalized until much closer.
Gotcha. So more or less, you're going to find things that you want to do. It's just a matter of, once it's out, then figuring out which one you want to prioritize.
Yeah, you're gonna end up probably being double booked
Yeah,
Triple.
or triple. Yeah.
yeah.
Then before we move on to the next slide, the field and campground, I take it they're two separate locations. Is that the idea?
Maybe that comes to the map. I brought a map. in case anyone
Excellent.
wants it. I think it might be reversed on your screen. I don't know how Zoom works that way, but campground,
It looks right.
It looks
field, right? Ignore my drawing. That's so when you get there, this is the map they give that like campground gives you. And so they drew, here's how to get to where you're supposed to sleep at night for me, which was very helpful.
Cool.
I'm over here this year, so I'm a lot closer. But yeah, so it's I guess we can go over the map if you want. If that's what we want to talk about here. I got so this lower section is all RV sites, which doesn't mean you have to have an RV to stay there. It just means it's a bigger site with power hookups and water. I believe the tent sites, which are up here, I think they also have, sorry, they're like all up here. They also have water too, I think, right? I'm not sure. I've only done the RV sites.
They don't. They have water every few sites that you can go use, but they don't have
Gotcha.
individual water.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I like charging my phone, so I go for the RV site, and then I don't spend any time on the site. Maybe some people do, but personally, I only slept on my campsite and cooked one single meal there just to say I did. Because there's so much to do. I don't know why you'd hang out at your own site unless you're just relaxing, I guess. So like you don't need that much of your site. But then it's also, so this is the field over here, which is a big grassy field with a big hill leading up to it. So it's kind of like a bowl shape. And as you get closer to the field, you get more, I'd say dense with the activities for the sites.
The
So
sites are all
Sean,
smaller the closer you get. The
Mhm.
big sites are at the back. The smaller sites are up. Close
So
to
this
the
is
field.
more big, open, kind of grassy areas, and this is a little more dense. But that's also where all the food is. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it, and also more closer to the top areas. I think that could be in part too because the people who have been to PorcFest a lot know to book their sites early. So they're more likely to get the ones closest to where all the activities are by the field. So I think that's why it's actually a lot more dense with activities closer to the field, is because they book up first, and then as Rogers fills up, people get the sites further and further away. But it's all still pretty walkable. I mean, it's a pretty big campground, but
Just for instance, like how far, like on the map that you have written there with your line going how you get to the field, how far of a walk was that to there?
I mean, it's like 5 minutes.
Okay,
It's not far. Yeah, it's not very far.
And his map's from the office, not from the field.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the field's here, the office is there.
And in case anybody's watching that later, don't park at the office and leave your car there. Don't do it.
Yeah, you park down here or at your actual campsite, you know. One thing that you can't really tell on the map is it is on the side of a hill. So I suppose if you were camping down here and wanted to get up here, that would probably take the longest because you're walking uphill the whole way, like just gradually uphill. But I mean, it's not that bad.
It's not, we've stayed on the bottom of like that bottom back corner. And it doesn't take that long for us to walk, even with our son. I mean, it sometimes takes a while because we stop and chat with people along the way, but to
Yeah.
actually walk it, it's not bad.
Yeah, that is one of the problems is if you're trying to get from one end to another, you kind of have to be like blinders because you're going to see everybody you know as you walk there, and you're going to want to say hi, and you're just like, oh, I'm never going to get to my destination if I keep talking to everybody, hundreds of people, right?
So I don't know if this was mentioned, but the field is where the pavilion, which is where the big speakers are, and there's some tents on the field and some games. And then the campgrounds are where more spontaneous, not PorcFest sponsored events happen, where the hubs are and where people are doing their own thing, and where Sean has historically helped the vendors with their sites.
Yep, the RV site's closest to the field has generally been known as the Agora Valley, which is the agorist area for people that want to, trade and vend and do different things. And so with that, we've kind of prioritized trying to get a lot of the food vendors and a lot of the more active areas, people that are setting up hubs, do a lot of speakers in the past have tried to get into that area because it's just in essence the most walked through area. It's got the most traffic because when you're walking from the pavilion or from the field back up, you're walking through that area basically every time. So that's why it's always been the most popular area for people doing any kind of sales or trying to, push their own speakers and events and stuff that they have going on.
Cool. Okay, anybody have anything else they want to add to just the basic stuff before we move on to the next slide? So are there still tickets available?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And
Not many, but there are.
not many.
Well, my understanding is you've already sold more than last year, right?
That's true. Yeah, because we've changed the number this year to 2,500 adult, and last year it was 2,500 total. So there are more available this year, but I think last I looked, it was over 2,100 adult tickets are sold. So there's not a lot left. And Rogers Campground itself is sold out.
So
Okay,
if you're listening to this and you don't have a ticket, go get one right this second.
Yeah.
yeah, if you're considering it at all, now is the time. So, because they don't sell tickets there, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
We historically have sold tickets on site, but last year we sold out. So there were no tickets available to sell. And so it was a much smoother time for registration because everybody already had a ticket. So they just checked in and went about their merry way.
And so the capacity right now, are we over that, or are they over that 2,500, or are they below that still?
There are tickets available, but like I said, we've changed the criteria. Now it's 2,500 adults. So we are over 2,500 total tickets with the kids at this point, but we're not sold out.
And are there like single day passes, or is it the same price no matter how much you go?
Same price.
Okay.
Same price. The point of PorcFest is to showcase all the things that New Hampshire has to offer and convince people that they want to move here. So if you're only coming for a day, you're going to pay the same price as somebody who's coming from a week and enjoying all the different days. And it's still pretty affordable. I mean, I think the early bird tickets this year were $60. So if you got one early, that's a reasonable amount to pay for a day long.
And then as far as what's accepted by the vendors and people on the property, is it cash, credit, crypto? What's the best way to go? Should I bring $100 in spending money with me, like actual bills?
I would definitely say that bringing cash is a good idea. The internet over the years has gotten better, so crypto transactions have become easier, but it's still not everywhere. So it can be a little bit of a hassle depending on who your carrier is. Some of them work better than others. And even amongst the carriers, like I have Verizon, it works pretty good for me. I have a friend that has, one of my employees has Verizon, and their phone didn't work at all the whole week. So it's like, wait a second, we in theory have the same provider, but it didn't work for them at all. So for crypto, that can be a little bit of a hassle. Sometimes you have to go to an area so you can get on the internet so you can do your transaction. So having cash is definitely a good idea. Only a handful of the vendors take credit cards, so that can be a hassle. I know I've done a ton of sales previous years because I take credit cards at my food trucks. So people are like, oh, he takes cards, I can go to him, because they've just run out of cash. So I end up, I wouldn't say it's a good go-to. So I try to have some kind of, barter item, i.e., gold, silver, crypto, or more specifically, cash is just, a guaranteed going to probably work the best, as much as I don't want to promote it, just because the internet's been questionable over the years.
You had previously mentioned too, Sean, something about bartering. Is that something that's common?
I mean, like I said, most of the time it's gold or silver. Goldbacks, actually, the representatives from Goldbacks were there last year. So there was a lot of Goldbacks going around, and that was a new one. Not new, it'd been there previous years. So it was the first year it really gone around in circulation as much between the vendors and all the different people around. So that was so there is some barter and stuff like in that way. But in general, it's something of that sort that's going to come down to a swap value for something.
I see a lot of it. People just like, I have an extra sandwich, I'll trade you for a couple drinks type of thing. Like nobody is offended if you make an offer.
Gotcha. All right. So actually that we'll skip a couple here, and we'll come back to them. As far as the money goes, are there ATMs around? What's the closest location to get provisions like that?
I'm not sure there is an ATM in the office. Do you by chance know, Constance?
I can't remember, honestly.
I don't think there is, because I've had quite a few people come to me and ask me to run their card and give them, and so I can give them cash.
Cash advance by Sean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it works out. I might just tell them I charge them for the percentage of the card, but I don't care. But it's just
yeah, because you probably end up being cash heavy.
Yeah, definitely. That's a majority of what I do. So it's worked out in the past. But yeah, I would think if there was an ATM on site, they would probably just use that. Because, but I mean, I will say that the town is only a couple miles up the road. To drive into town is really easy if you have a vehicle. It's right up the road. And as far as even you said provisions, so there is a liquor store. There's a couple of grocery stores. It's a good sized little town.
I've used my debit card for cash back at the Shaw's there.
Yep. So there is options. I always call the liquor store I call them a month before, and then I call them the week before to remind them that we're coming and to expect a big influx of, hey, you're going to get swamped with 2,500 people coming into town. Make sure you guys got extra liquor on hand, because we're going to clear your store out. So we always try to make sure that they're aware that that's coming.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yep, I call all the bigger stores, CVS and the liquor store and Shaw's, and make sure that everybody remembers, hey, we're coming this week. Get ready.
So as far as lodging, so if, I've missed the boat with my campground at this point, is what you're telling me. So if I don't have a place to stay, is there a hotel in town? I'm sure that's already booked as well. What would I do? Just find a town that's nearby and kind of drive in kind of deal?
Well, there is still the possibility to stay at the campground. You just need to piggyback on somebody else's site. So if you find someone, like last year, I was on an RV site and I am but one person with one tent. I don't need the whole site to myself. So I had a few other tents on there. at least on certain days of the weeks, especially for people that aren't going to be there the whole week. It might make more sense to just hop onto somebody else's and pay to be there.
There is a spreadsheet going around this year. I know Dennis has the link and has shared it on Facebook for people who are looking to share their sites or looking for lodging to kind of keep a centralized list, or I guess centralized but decentralized, because it's not official, but it gives people the opportunity to match up.
You can always get on the cancellation list from Rogers as well. Last year, every single person on the list got a campsite. So
Oh, wow.
That's not a guarantee, but last year, every person that got on the cancellation list did end up getting a campsite. And then as far as the hotel rooms and stuff, there are hotels around the area, but the ones that are directly close by, I do know actually sold out before Rogers did. So, but there are, it's not too far of a drive. I know last year there was some people that were, quite a few people camping at a different campground that was about 10 miles up the road and just coming back because they actually prefer not to stay on site, be able to get away from, the big fullness of the show, step away from it for a little bit, go back to the campsite, be more, more quiet time to themselves, and then come back to the show when they're ready, kind of thing. So it can be overwhelming for some people.
It's probably a good time to mention too that if you do not stay on site, you have to pay the office a $5 per person use fee for the campground. So you stop at the office as like a visitor pass. And some people will just go pay for the day, wander around, find somebody who has a big spot, end up camping there. And so then obviously you pay for the extra person on the site versus a day pass. But that's another thing that people do frequently, is they just kind of show up and pay for the one day, which is a separate fee from the PorcFest ticket.
So that's when you go to the campground, so you can come and go as you please. Like if I go in, can I leave to go to the grocery store and then come back, or?
Yeah, once you have the sticker that Rogers Campground issues for your car, they'll open the gate, let you in.
Very good. Okay, so that's lodging. So restrooms and facilities, how does that situation work out?
You should talk about this, Sean.
So over the last few years, we've been ordering as many porta potties as we can. Last year, we ordered every one that was available in the region, and we still could have used another dozen or two. It's always a problem at some points during the show. We try to get them there every day to clean them out and keep up. And at some point, somebody does something stupid and flushes something down the line, and we end up having to close some of the bathrooms here and there, or the water gets low and because somebody leaves the water on, or too many showers are happening, or whatever the problem is. And so we end up having to close different things at different points. We try to regulate it super closely so that it's never shut down for more than a couple hours, certain times of the day, so that we're not running either out of water because everything's based on a well system there, or overflowing the system by stopping clogs. Actually, last year we didn't have any clogging issues for the first year that I am aware, actually. Nothing backed up. We did have a well issue though, so we were just going through too much water. So we ended up having to close the bathrooms, and then, it happens, but there's always porta potties available if the bathrooms are closed. We try to keep a good mix, and we have them come in every day to clean out so that the porta potties aren't becoming a total mess. And we keep up with it as best as we can. We literally rent every available porta potty. Last year, the porta potty company said they were buying 20 more, and we'd have 20 more this year. So we are crossing our fingers if that actually happens, and we end up with 20 more porta potties to make sure that we don't run into issues. But yeah, we kind of just take things in stride. Last year was the first time we had record numbers, but now we have an idea of how to deal with those record numbers, because we're going to have similar numbers this year. Slightly larger, but not too much. So hopefully we can keep the flow going as smoothly as possible and make the adjustments we need to make sure we have everything going.
Bring water.
Yes, bring water.
Yeah, I have that in my notes. Bring water bottles for drinking, because if you get dehydrated, you're gonna have a bad time, right? I think people
Yep.
forget that it is camping. You are in the middle of nowhere, so.
And last year there was one site that was offering showers, free showers. It was donation based, and they were just, you can come and take a shower on their site, and they brought their own water in to do the showers. And it was all something that they set up on their site, and it was really awesome because that really took a lot of the weight off of the showers of the campground. The campground is a older campground, and so it doesn't deal with everything we can as perfectly as some might want it to. So anything can help, but definitely bring water. Not necessarily just drinking water, you know, a couple extra, you know, even an extra 5-gallon thing of water to wash your dishes with or whatever at your site, whatever can help out, because there may be points where the water is turned off. It has had to happen at some point every single year.
Yeah.
It's generally temporary, but
It's a lot of
Yeah.
people have in one location. I can only imagine how hard it is, so.
Yep.
So then that moves on to the food and beverage question. So I guess you're probably the guy to talk to about that, right?
Yeah. So last year we didn't know what was to expect with our numbers nearly tripling from previous year numbers, and so I own way too many food trucks, and I brought everything I had, and actually we didn't end up needing everything because really the decentralization and so many people doing a little bit of, you know, bordering, making an extra couple meals. We were really telling everybody from the beginning, please, like, bring a little bit extra food. If you're making a bowl of chili, make one for 10 people instead of just for 5, for your family of 5, and sell the extra 5 bowls so we can make sure that we got food for, you know, everybody coming up that's going to be looking around. And it really worked out great. It was very decentralized. It wasn't just the Agora Valley food trucks and food vendors right there in the one area, which did, you know, I did well, don't get me wrong. But it was the decentralized, seeing all over the sites, different stuff, different culture foods, different things going on was awesome. So that side of it did work out really well. And if you're thinking about coming up and you got, you know, you're already cooking for yourself or your family, like, please just bring up a little extra and make a couple extra meals, and you will sell them. You will meet people. You will trade for them. You know, maybe you'll end up donating it and just giving it to somebody and making a new friend. But it's always worth it, and it's a good way to interact with people. You know, culturally, meeting new people has always been based around food. Being around a meal has always been a good base for meeting new people. So it's a pretty good way of doing it. But yeah, it worked really well last year.
And I think with what they promoted last year over the food concern, it prompted a lot of potlucks too. I felt like there were potlucks all week long, and that was a really cool way to bring like a little something to contribute and then kind of just see what showed up and meet a lot of people. It was cool.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, Stephen, I know you guys hosted one like almost every night, I believe, right? At the Shelter's tent.
It wasn't a potluck. It was like after hours party kind of thing. So there were lots of calories, but none of them were food. But yeah, we had a good crowd coming by drinking every night, and like, I mean, we had snacks too. I mean, don't get me wrong, we had a ton of snacks, but it wasn't like a full meal.
I felt like there were places that I really wanted to check out, and I never made it to all of them because there was such good variety last year. Like, if it was like, that's really good, I want to have a second bowl from there, but then like there were too many other options.
There's so much food. There's so much food. I don't think there was a barbecue place. I don't think I ever got around to eating at it. I kept meaning to. There's so much food.
That's
I
right.
will say, if you have specific needs as far as like anything you're allergic to or special dietary needs, you may take those into extra consideration, because trying to get specific stuff can get a little bit harder. But unless you're really dietary, really restricted, you're probably pretty safe on coming on up and being able to find what you need. And like I said, if you're making something, plan on making double, and it'll you know, it worked out really well for a lot of people, and it was a lot of fun that way too.
Well, I'm gluten-free and try to stay low carbs, and I find that we have a lot of other people that eat similar, so finding stuff like that isn't really that difficult. So that's, and I know there's definitely vegan options as well.
Yeah, there's a fairly large vegan community within the Free State Project. So That's not surprising. So as far as we kind of talked a little bit about it with the liquor stores and the grocery stores being nearby, as far as alcohol goes, are there alcohol sales, or is it just kind of bring and share? How does that work?
There's
And
definitely
keep in
both.
mind that we are being recorded, so.
I mean, there's definitely both. Our little alcohol potluck at our parties was always in constant supply, but there were definitely various ways for you to purchase anything you wanted. But I mean,
Officially, it's a donation. That is one of the very few rules that they have put on us, is we cannot sell alcohol, because they said they were going to pull his liquor license if we did. And so we cannot sell alcohol, but we can put alcohol out and accept a donation for it, a suggested donation, and then we're not selling it. And he's let us use that line. And but that's one of the very few requests that they've asked of us, is that we don't sell alcohol, because some people don't like us coming up there and enjoying ourselves freely.
yeah.
And so he's been threatened to have his license revoked. And so officially there's no alcohol sold. There is things put out for donation purposes, and put a suggestion on the letter that says, on the sign that says how much they would prefer you donate. But officially it's not a sale. Just
Yeah, and I mean,
in
at
that
my
manner.
Seacoast Lounge, we our goal was not to give away alcohol, right? Our goal was to meet as a group, meet new people, showcase who we are, and make connections that ideally those people would continue connecting with us after PorcFest, move to our area, and just join our community. We really wanted to show just us off, right? So the alcohol is really just a side aspect of PorcFest, honestly. Yeah,
But there's plenty of it flowing around. So
plenty of
it's
it flowing
generally not
around.
hard
Yeah.
to find a drink.
Yeah.
No,
That's
overall,
sure.
for as much alcohol as there's not that many problems with people over consuming.
No.
I know that's always one of the questions that we regularly get from parents concerned with what they might bump into at PorcFest with kids. And I can say in the 4 years I've been, it's been a really family-friendly environment. People are pretty courteous of who's around them. When it gets late at night and you're sitting around a campfire, I would say there's probably more consumption. But even that is really, from my experience, it's been mindful, and it hasn't been anything that I would be concerned about having kids around.
And it's a fairly safe place for people to imbibe, right? Like they're if they drink too much, they're not getting in their car and going anywhere. They're just going to go lay down in their tent and not bother anybody, right? And it's just a safe place, and they're surrounded by people that care about them being in a good place too, right? And I think there's a lot to be said in general for the safety of PorcFest, because our community is fairly tight knit, but also we're based on responsibility and respect for each other, and I think that goes a long way. Like I never once worried about somebody breaking into my tent and stealing my belongings or anything like that. Like that's pretty unheard of, right? There's no fights that happen, even though there's thousands of people there. And people drinking alcohol. You're not hearing about really a ton of drama at all, which I think like on any other festival would potentially run into a lot more of those issues.
So is there security on premises, or is there anything along those lines?
Yeah, well, so there's a thing called the Pork Rangers, and I think there's more first aid people as well. But the
Free aid.
free aid, yeah. So the Rangers, their job is to kind of act as security. They go around on their golf carts, but they're really focused on de-escalation of conflict and solving problems, and actually like helping us out, and providing actual assistance. And I think they do a really good job of that as well.
And historically, I think the biggest problems for pork rangers have often been like local kids that come on site and
Yeah.
not the attendees.
Yeah, like the biggest problem last year, I think there was like a gang of teenagers that showed up later in the week or something, and some stuff got spray painted with graffiti, and it was just like pretty clearly not our people, but it's pretty minor. It was pretty minor concern, honestly. I don't think it was even that bad.
And I think when there have been disputes, like Stephen was saying, the pork rangers are really good at de-escalation. I think the mediation people in general at the festival are, personal responsibility, accountability, and just really being willing to have the hard conversations and come to an agreement or some type of way to coexist in their own corners for the rest of the festival or whatever that might look like. But in terms of how other people, if you're not involved in the actual dispute, you would probably be unaware that it happened.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, so getting back to what to bring and what to pack. So this is like you've mentioned, somebody mentioned, don't forget you are camping. So.
And don't forget you're in the White Mountains either. It will be 90 degrees during the day, and then it'll be 30 degrees at night at some point. Like it can get these huge range and swings. It can go from sunny and nice to freezing cold and raining, and you're in an area that can get a very big range of different weather. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Bring something so you can swim in the pool during the day, and something so you can stay warm in your tent when it's cool at night.
And the sun burns even when it's 40 or 50 degrees. So remember that too.
Yeah, especially being early in the season, a lot of people haven't gotten that first layer of burn, and you will get it there if you're not, glopped up with the suntan or sunblock.
And rain, plan for rain at some point in the days that you're there. So make sure that you have good rain gear, changes of clothes, layers, because things happen even in the rain. Last year, we had torrential downpours at one point, and we had people under a tent, and the kids were all running around we had somebody making balloon animals, and the kids were all running around in the rain with their balloon animals. So rain or shine.
And ticks.
Yeah.
We're camping in the White Mountains. Ticks. My son got Lyme, his very first PorcFest in 2014. So do your tick check.
I think with the ticks, we play the odds. There's enough of us there that any individual getting a tick on them is low, but somebody getting a tick on them is guaranteed.
Okay, local amenities. I think we kind of covered that. There's grocery stores, everything like that, not too far from the campgrounds.
And Duncan's.
What's that? Oh, and
And
Duncan.
Duncan's. Yeah.
Good to know.
Not that you need to leave PorcFest to get coffee, but
Yeah,
some people
Porcupine
need
coffee.
Duncan's.
Yeah.
Some people need Duncan's, and it's available, just so they know.
So accessibility is if for people with other needs, is there resources like that on the campgrounds?
I think that we try our best, especially with Chris Lopez being a key volunteer. It's certainly not an easy place to navigate, but there are people with carts willing to give rides if necessary, and we have especially ordered a handicap accessible porta potty or wheelchair accessible porta potty. So I think for being a campground in the White Mountains, there will be spots that you will not be able to reach if you're in a wheelchair. But we definitely have tried to make it as accessible as possible.
Great.
Mm-hmm. I'd say the vast majority you could get to on a wheelchair, right? It's just the theater area has stairs leading up to it. But
yeah,
other than that,
the theater area, I think that's pretty much the only space.
yeah, other than that, it would be site by site, right? If it's too rocky and grassy or something.
Gotcha. And then vendors, is there stuff to buy? Like at Constance, you mentioned your hoodie. Is that an official piece of merchandise? Is that just somebody selling hoodies?
PorcFest has changed many, many times over the years, and this was the official, one of many official PorcFest 10 shirt hoodies. And I think Stephanie, yours is what, like couple years after, like maybe
This was a
2014.
hand-me-down, so I wasn't actually at this PorcFest, but
Okay, I think that one might be 2014. There is no official gear right now, but there is, Dennis has suggested people design their own, bring it and sell it, which worked out really well. Last year, there was a number of cool designs. Or was that 2020? I can't remember. They all kind of run together at this point. But they're, no, I actually think both years, the same woman was selling PorcFest with the year gear. So there's definitely room to bring like merchandise if you want to sell it. And then there's other sales as well of, you know, I also got a hippie skirt, re-up my hippie skirt wardrobe last year. And kids definitely find little trinkets to buy. Sean probably knows more about this too, because he helps the vendors.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a handful of merchandise vendors that do a variety of different clothing. Definitely more leaning on the hippier side of clothing in general, but there's always a good variety of different PorcFest and different kind of Liberty-based T-shirts and kind of funny ones and stuff like that. Some sweatshirts and stuff as well. And then, like you said, a lot of trinkets and other merchandise type stuff is going on. Then there's like, as well as just getting pre-made food from the trucks. There's also like Mikey does all of his, you know, snack foods and stuff like that. So there's a good variety in that way as well.
I have a mom brag perfect PorcFest story about hippie merchandise. My kid who broke her wrist on the day before PorcFest still managed to go around selling candy bars to make enough money to go buy a shirt that they picked out from one of the vendors that was very, very like hippie clothing. But that's what Mars wanted, and it took I think 2.5 days of candy bar sales to get the money to buy the shirt. But with a broken wrist, I think the cast like helped with the sympathy. But, and my kid's 10 at the time, 11 now. But that's one thing that we haven't really talked about. But the kids just totally, like, I don't know, that's might be coming up in a future slide.
As a matter of fact. So things to do. Well, since you started with the kids, let's talk about kids and families.
Yeah, the kids will sell you anything and everything, and they will then take that money and go buy gold back or crypto because they're smart kids.
Or they'll sneak into the. Go ahead.
There was a kid last year that took the apples out of his camper, sold them for a bubble machine gun because they wanted the bubble machine gun. So they get really creative. His dad was like, "Where did all of our apples go?"
Buying firearms, obviously.
Yeah,
do a lot of different services as well.
yeah, those kids know how to hustle. That's for sure. Like one of them got me early on in the they were selling like schedules. I think Mo made like these nice schedules that were kind of had like artwork and cartoons and stuff in there. The kid sold one to me on the first day, and I was like, "All right, you should please come by here every day. I'll buy the daily schedule from you every day." But that first day, he charged me so much more than what every other kid was charging, and I did not know. And I didn't buy any more from him after that. But
well, that particular Mo, who they're talking about, that made the daily schedule and newsletter, gave them to the kids and wanted the kids to set their own prices and to see how much that they could get. So the kid was really following the suggested of the creator.
And good for him.
And by the end of the day, by the end of those days, those $5 schedules would be like 50 cents or whatever you would
Sure.
could get for them.
Then as far as like activities other than selling things to random people.
There's a lot of activities for kids. I know Bardo Farm had a tent on the field last year and they had a lot of activities for kids, especially in the morning. The Porcupines Pavilion, which is like the bingo hall up by the pool, has different activities for the kids. It's a lot of parent volunteers who make the activities happen, but there's usually games and tie-dyeing, or last year there was a little circus. They were trying to do like juggling acts, balloon animals, face painting. There's always something, chalk,
Movie nights.
lots of bike riding. Last year
Nerf guns.
they weren't just selling to random people. They did, there was like an actual kids vendor event where they all set up tables under the bingo hall and had an actual hour that they encouraged people to come by from their tables. So there's lots of things for the kids to do.
Cool.
And humans versus zombies.
Oh yeah, that's a big one too.
The boffer wars are always super popular, making boffers and having their wars with those. The Nerf gun wars are always really popular with the kids too. And then obviously there's the pool, which is, the ever-going one. So
Yeah.
So-
I don't know if you've heard me say movie nights are often a thing too, either at individual sites or at the bingo hall.
Oh, okay, very cool. So like people bring Nerf guns or they're provided or something like that.
it's a mix of, definitely a lot of them bring their own because they've over the years remembered like, oh, there was that Nerf gun fight and I didn't have the one I wanted to have. And then there's, generally some extra ones floating around here and there as well.
Sure.
But that's always one of my son's favorite things. He's 6 and all into his Nerf guns, and he's always looking forward to that. And he's, never forgets to take his boffer, which is, his rubber sword kind of concept, and they still have their boffer wars. And so it's always popular.
Do folks bring like yard games and like, cornhole and frisbees and all that kind of stuff?
There's generally quite a bit of that down on the field available all the time. There was even axe throwing on the field last year. There was a dodgeball game, which we've actually kind of been told not to play dodgeball anymore because that seems to be the one thing that ends up somebody getting broken. But in general, there's always something going on. Ultimate frisbee,
Kickball.
and stuff. So you got all ages from like your little kids all the way up to your teenagers and different stuff going on. And there's no lack of activities, no matter what the age is. That's for sure. It's very family oriented. I've been taking my 3 and 6 year olds since they were born, and they love it every year. They talk about it. Usually starting around Thanksgiving, they start asking me, "When's PorcFest? When's PorcFest?" And they're just dying for it all year long. So
Even my teens that barely want to do anything want to go to PorcFest. My son is 18 and has already requested off work for PorcFest.
Okay, so that's what kids and families are up to. What about single folks?
As the resident single folk, I think of this chat. I mean, there's so many activities. If you want to do networking and stuff like that, you could do that. If you want to party it up, you could do that. There's dances. I don't know, all the normal things adults do. Everything. There's bonfire basically 24/7 down in the field. We had competitive kickball games last year. I think there was a singles meetup potluck at some point during the week. Plenty of single people at PorcFest. Plenty of single people there.
And actual single women too.
Actual single women there too. Yeah, a good variety of single people for sure. Yeah, there's definitely adult activities, not just the family stuff.
Okay, and then as far as like meetups go, is there a chat for everybody to kind of coordinate? Is there, how does everybody kind of communicate what's going on as far as things that aren't necessarily scheduled? Is it mostly just word of mouth once you're there?
Telegram's been the app of choice for the last 2 years, I believe. There are groups that you can join specific to your interests. And Dennis Pratt started this so that way people could continue to be connected after PorcFest, because the point of PorcFest is to meet like-minded people and figure out when you're moving to New Hampshire. So by connecting over, like there's one group that's for gaming, and in the Porcupine Real Estate tent last year, we had like a game night where former clients of mine brought a bunch of board games, and they had gaming board games in the evening. And so that Telegram chat continued after, and there's been some new posts lately. I have a lot of them on mute right now, but so people can connect after the fact. And then handwritten notices as well that get posted in various places. Like signs end up in bathrooms and on poles and on campsites. And your dad last year, Stephen, had a cool board that he was letting people make announcements on.
Yeah, he was right at the front of the campground. I'm not sure who got that site this year. It wasn't him, but yeah, towards the front there was a bulletin board that you could put stuff on.
Oh, very cool.
I think if you read through the hubs that are forming, when you read through each hub, there's a link to their Telegram group chat if they have one. And I would say definitely join the group chat for the hub that interests you, because then through that chat, you'll find the meetups that you want to be at.
Okay. I think that brings me to the end of my slides. So do we have any questions? Is there anybody asking questions?
We have a very small audience.
Yeah. Well, this was really just for me anyways, so. I'm gonna defer to Constance here as far as the.
Well, this is gonna be tough, because our plan was to do a screenshot of everyone in the chat in the beginning and at the end, and I think we only have possibly 1 or 2 people that applies to that are not panelists. So Amy probably did her screenshot anyway, and oh, panelists count for the giveaway too. So thank you guys. So anyone who was on the call at the beginning and the end will be entered into a random drawing to either win a PorcFest ticket or the Kirby's barbecue picnic basket. And you'll get an email if you're a winner. So maybe you'll get a chance to try that barbecue place after all, Stephen.
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add, or any things that people may not know about PorcFest that you didn't get covered?
Hi, Dominic. Dennis Pratt here.
Hi, Dennis.
So I think what I've been working on mostly is getting people who are interested in doing activities to be able to do that. We have ways that whatever you want to do, whether it's creating like a knitting group or having a philosophy conversation or playing poker, or you can create an event around it. You can create a hub around it, and you can advertise it to all the other attendees. And really just all that's required is that you do it consciously, just write it up and post it, and then it goes onto our website, it goes onto the Telegram groups, and we even advertise it over Facebook. So it's a good way of, if you have something that you really like to do, or you have deep knowledge, or you want to meet some people. For example, let's say that you were you came from Wisconsin, right? Well, why not have like a Wisconsin meetup? So you meet all your other Wisconsin porcupines, And anyone who comes from Wisconsin might come as well. And you might meet people from a couple towns over, and you could do the old cheesehead salutes and all that type of stuff. You could even create like an affinity group so that you guys all stay in touch, and you're back in touch with people from Wisconsin and telling them about all the stuff that's happening in the free states, and helping each other and things like that. So what we created here was really a Lego box, a way of constructing whatever it is that you want. And so you can put these things together. I know you're talking mostly about attendees right now, but it's the attendees who put on PorcFest. So as you walk around the campgrounds, each campsite is a potential place where some activity might be going on. Someone, I know that there was someone last year who he specialized in Jeeps. So he just advertised and said, hey, you got a Jeep? Come bring it over here. And there were all these Jeeps there, and they were like remodeling it and redoing it. Of course, I have a Jeep, but I was too busy to actually go over. I wish I had. Maybe next year. But anyway, so there's just this fantastic ability to create new things, to create new activities, to create new connections, and to make friends and have them, you can enjoy it beforehand if you create an affinity group around it. We give you tools to do that. You can create a group around it and talk to people and plan and get all excited about it. And then when you're there, you meet these people in real life, and then you can stay in touch with each other afterwards. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, is make connections with Liberty people all throughout the United States right now. Eventually, when the United States lifts all these artificial barriers for foreign people, it'll be all throughout the world. You meet them, and you find out what you guys like. You form groups, and before you know it, you're just having a blast.
Great. Well said. If nobody has anything else to add, I think we'll just we'll wrap it up there, and just want to thank everybody for coming and giving me some information that I was looking for and sharing it with everybody else.
I do have one thing to say.
Sure.
As the person who has run registration for a few years, come down to the field and actually check in, because it's like herding cats sometimes to get people to actually come down and register after they bought a ticket. So that's my only frustration, is that you're in the campground and there's so much fun that you just kind of forget to go down there and register. So make sure you do that.
I see that you recorded this. Is this Q&A going to be posted somewhere that I can reference people to go and kind of get questions and answers that they might have and be able to watch this?
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube and Odyssey.
Awesome. Thank you.
The Porcupine Real Estate channel.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.